Before we get into today's story, I need you to do something for me right now. Stop scrolling, stop whatever else you are doing, and pay attention, because this video is worth your full focus. And while you're at it, hit that subscribe button. Seriously, do it right now before you forget. This channel is your #1 destination for Springbok news, rugby analysis, squad updates, and the kind of stories that the mainstream rugby media either misses or is too slow to cover. We are here every single day bringing you the content that you actually care about. And when you subscribe, you make sure that you never miss a thing. Not a transfer rumor, not a squad announcement, not a controversy, nothing. And speaking of controversies, that is exactly what we have got for you today, because this one involves two of the most iconic names in South African rugby history. Two legends, two brothers in arms, and a story that had the entire rugby world talking for weeks. So if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button as well. It takes you 2 seconds and it genuinely makes a massive difference to this channel. It tells us you want more of this kind of content, and trust me, we have plenty more where this came from. Alright, enough said, let us get into it because this story is something else. There are very few partnerships in the history of South African rugby that carry the weight and the legacy of the bond between Kolisi and Eben Etzebeth. These are not just teammates, these are not just two players who happen to wear the same jersey on match day. These are two men who have grown up together in rugby, who have pushed each other, carried each other, and built something extraordinary together over more than a decade at the highest level of the sport. From their early days at Western Province and the Stormers, through to the Springboks' back-to-back Rugby World Cup triumphs, through to their time together at the Sharks, Kolisi and Etzebeth represent the heart and the spine of South African rugby in this golden generation. And that is exactly why what Kolisi said about Eben Etzebeth following one of the most controversial incidents of the 2025 international season hit so hard and meant so much. Let us set the scene properly because context is everything here. It was the 29th of November 2025. The Springboks were in Cardiff at the Principality Stadium in what was supposed to be a routine end-of-year Autumn Nations Series fixture against a Wales side that has been going through one of the most difficult periods in their rugby history. And routine is exactly what it turned out to be, at least on the scoreboard. The Springboks were absolutely devastating on the day, racking up 11 tries and producing one of the most emphatic performances you will ever see from any Test nation anywhere in the world. The final score was 73 points to 0. Wales suffered their worst ever defeat at their iconic home ground. It was a comprehensive, clinical, and at times breathtaking performance from the world champions. But then, in the final 2 minutes of the match, with the game long since decided and the Springboks already celebrating what would become their best win record in a single calendar year, Eben Etzebeth became involved in a skirmish with Welsh flanker Alex Mann. Referee Luke Ramos initially warned both players that another incident would result in a yellow card. But then the TMO, Eric Gorzens, intervened, notifying Ramos that an act of serious foul play had occurred. The footage was reviewed, and what it showed was Etzebeth making contact with his thumb into the eye area of Mann during the skirmish. Ramos issued a permanent red card, and just like that, a brilliant, dominant, historic team performance had a shadow hanging over it. The rugby world reacted immediately. Social media exploded. The footage was replayed thousands of times. Pundits, former players, coaches, and fans all weighed in with their opinions. And the opinions were not kind. Here was Eben Etzebeth, 141 test caps to his name, the most capped Springbok in the history of the sport, a man who had never been sent off in international rugby in his entire career, now facing the prospect of a lengthy ban and a permanent stain on a legacy that had been built over 13 years of incredible service to the green and gold jersey. The question on everyone's lips was simple: did he mean to do it? And that is exactly where Kolisi stepped in. Because when the cameras found the Springbok captain in the post-match interview, and when the question about Etzebeth was put to him, Kolisi did not dodge it. He did not deflect. He did not offer a politician's answer. He looked straight down the lens and he told the world exactly what he believed. I am sure Eben did not mean that because he knows the consequences, Kolisi said. I am sure it will be revealed that it was an accident. And then, in a separate moment, with even more conviction, Kolisi added, There is no way. If you go for an eye gouge, you know what happens after that. Eben has said sorry to the guy already, but I do not want that to be the highlight of the day. It has been a good day. Now let us stop right there for a second and really absorb what Kolisi was doing in that moment. Because this was not just a teammate throwing his arms around another teammate out of loyalty. This was the captain of the Springboks, the man who holds that entire dressing room together, a man whose words carry enormous weight both inside and outside of South African rugby, making a very deliberate, very public, and very pointed defense of his best friend and his teammate. Kolisi knows better than almost anyone on the planet what kind of man Eben Etzebeth is. He has shared changing rooms with him, training pitches with him, hotel corridors with him, and World Cup celebrations with him. If Kolisi says there is no way it was intentional, that is not nothing. That is a statement that demands serious consideration. And yet, the disciplinary process had its own conclusion to reach. Etzebeth appeared before an independent disciplinary committee via video link, chaired by Christopher Quinlan KC and featuring former international players Leon Lloyd and Becky Essex. The committee reviewed all available footage and evidence. They heard from Etzebeth himself, who was adamant throughout the hearing that he had not intentionally made contact with man's eye. He said the movement of his hand from man's shoulder to his face must have been caused by the movement of other bodies around him during the skirmish. He said he did not feel man's eye and did not even know at the time that he had made contact with it. And in a remarkable gesture of support, All Blacks legend Ardie Savea, one of the most respected players in world rugby, provided a character testimonial on behalf of Etzebeth. Think about that, a New Zealand player going to bat for a South African player in a disciplinary hearing. That tells you everything about the esteem in which Etzebeth is held across the game. Despite all of this, the committee determined that the contact with the eye was intentional. They set a mid-range entry point of 18 weeks or matches as their starting sanction. Etzebeth's previous record, the fact that in 141 test matches he had never once been sent off, that across 13 years of professional rugby at the very top level he had maintained a clean disciplinary sheet, was taken into account as a significant mitigating factor. 6 weeks were removed from the initial sanction. The final punishment handed down was a 12-match ban, ruling Etzebeth out of Sharks fixtures in both the Investec Champions Cup and the Vodacom URC deep into March 2026. He would not be available for club selection again until April. Former Welsh referee Nigel Owens, who had officiated 18 Springbok test matches during his career and who knows Eben Etzebeth as a player better than most officials on the planet, weighed in with a typically thoughtful and nuanced perspective. Owens said that Etzebeth had never struck him as a dirty player throughout his career, but he also acknowledged that what the camera showed was a pretty bad incident that deserved significant punishment. Owens used the opportunity to highlight what he sees as the broader inconsistency problem within World Rugby's disciplinary process, arguing that the entire system is, in his words, a total mess. Because mitigating factors like guilty pleas and clean records can dramatically reduce bans to the point where the deterrent effect is undermined. And here is the thing about Etzebeth's disciplinary record that makes this whole story even more remarkable. This was a player who had been a physical enforcer throughout his entire career, a player who plays on the edge, a player who has been cited, who has been warned, who has been involved in skirmishes and confrontations on rugby fields all over the world. A player who at 6 feet 9 inches and 120 kilograms uses his body as a weapon in absolutely every single contest he enters. And yet, across all of that, across 13 years and 141 tests, in the most physically brutal and confrontational sport on earth, he had never been sent off. Not once. Until Cardiff. Until those final 2 minutes. Until Alex Mann. What also cannot be ignored is the context of how the incident began. Multiple reports and observers noted that Mann had struck Etzebeth with a palm punch to the chin before the eye contact occurred. The feeling in certain quarters was that while Etzebeth's response was clearly unacceptable and rightly punished, the full picture of what provoked the reaction was not receiving enough attention. In rugby, the player who retaliates almost always gets caught. The player who starts it almost always escapes. It is one of the great frustrations of the game, and it was a frustration that was very much present in this case. Kolisi, for his part, moved forward with the dignity and grace that has always defined his leadership. He acknowledged the incident, defended his teammate, and then did exactly what he said he wanted to do. He shifted the focus back to what the Springboks had actually achieved on the day. 11 tries, 73 points, a historic victory, a record-breaking year, and a squad that was already looking ahead to what 2026 and ultimately 2027 would bring. That is what Kolisi does. He holds the line, he protects his people, and he never lets one bad moment define a bigger story. As for Etzebeth, he served his ban, he returned to action for the Sharks in April 2026, and he remains very much a part of Rassie Erasmus's plans for the upcoming international season and the road to the Rugby World Cup in Australia. Because here is the truth. Whatever you think about what happened in Cardiff, whatever conclusion you reached when you watched that footage, Eben Etzebeth remains one of the greatest locks to have ever played the game, and Kolisi knows it better than anyone. The brotherhood between these two men is bigger than one red card, bigger than a 12-week ban, bigger than any controversy. It is built on years of shared sacrifice, shared glory, and shared purpose. And when Kolisi said there is no way it was intentional, he was not just defending a teammate, he was defending a brother. If this story had you fired up, drop a comment below and let us know what you think. Do you believe Etzebeth meant to do it, or was Kolisi right all along? We want to hear every opinion. And if you have not subscribed yet, do it now, because there is so much more Springbok content coming your way. This is just the beginning.